My favorite restaurant closed down.
Oh.
And my new favorite restaurant sucks.
We all have our favorite fast food joints, but every so often we lose a good one, and in this case, more than one. Here are 10 discontinued fast food joints that no longer exist. See which ones you remember.
Every single one.
Wimpy's Grill.
It's a grill. I got a grill.
Fast food franchises love their mascots, and many will simply use an existing character to give their chain a pre-established image. And what better mascot for your franchise than a character that can't live without a few dozen juicy hamburgers? This was the case with Wimpy's Grill. Named after the character from the Popeye cartoons, Wimpy's Grill first opened in the 1930s and served up classic hamburgers, french fries, and chicken. The franchise never became the powerhouse that McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's did, but the burger chain managed to do quite well until the 70s rolled around.
Seems like a weird time.
In 1977, Wimpy's went from having 26 locations in the U.S. to having just 7. This was due in part to an international licensing deal with J. Lyons & Co. that brought the franchise over to the U.K. under the name Wimpy Bar. Unfortunately, after the owner, Edward Gold, passed away, the chain slowly but surely started to vanish in the U.S. However, the chain continues to thrive internationally under the name Wimpy. Wimpy's new headquarters is now located in South Africa and has locations in the UK, Egypt, and Kuwait.
We're everywhere.
Burger Queen.
If we pass a McDaniel's or a Burger Queen, let's hop out.
So, we're all aware of the big burger chains at this point. We have Wendy's with their Big Bacon Classic and iconic Frosty, which has kept the chain the 3rd biggest burger joint in the world. Burger King and their flame-broiled signature Whopper. Of course, we can't leave out the Mac Daddy or Big Mac Daddy, McDonald's, and all the classic deliciousness the franchise has dished out over the years. But what of the burger chains that emerged during the big burger boom of the mid-50s? One of those forgotten burger gems is Burger Queen. If there's a Burger King, there has to be a Burger Queen, and why not?
Equal rights!
After all, there's a Dairy Queen, and this was her equally regal counterpart in the burger world. Burger Queen stood out from the rest by offering not only burgers and fries, but also serving up fried chicken and a self-serve salad bar. The Louisville chain had locations in Canada, the UK, China, and even the UAE. Unfortunately, the franchise closed its doors by the mid-90s. But before closing up shop, Burger Queen changed its name to Druthers before their locations were ironically turned into Dairy Queens.
Our queen has an even better story.
Lums.
The first thing I did was I picked up some chili dogs from Lums.
Whenever there's talk of fast food restaurants, most of us think of juicy burgers, pizza, fried chicken, or tacos. Granted, these are all classic, but there is one classic that is often left out of this discussion: hot dogs. Now, most fast food chains don't offer hot dogs, especially the mega franchises like McDonald's and Burger King. However, there are a few that do dish out the dogs, such as Sonic and even Dairy Queen. But those particular dogs pale in comparison to the hot dogs once served at Lums. Lums was a Florida-based company that first opened its doors back in the mid-50s, and their specialty was hot dogs steamed in beer.
Who needs a beer?
Who doesn't?
Lums wasn't just a simple hot dog stand by any means. At one point, the franchise was able to purchase Caesar's Palace for $60 million back in the late 60s before Lums LLC was bought by KFC. Unfortunately, due to multiple owners and other financial mishaps, Lums eventually had no choice but to file for bankruptcy and closed all but one of its locations forever in 1982. Lums did attempt a brief revival in 2010, however, this was short-lived. The last Lums, located in Nebraska, finally closed its doors in 2017.
Worst day ever.
New to BabbleTop? Then how about hitting that subscribe button? It'll give you something to do while reminiscing about these lost fast food joints. Thanks. Henry's.
Henry, you're cool with this, right? I mean, it's just business, right, Henry?
Once upon a time, Henry's Hamburgers was one of the biggest burger joints around. In fact, the Chicago-based chain succeeded in outselling fast food titan McDonald's in the 50s and 60s. Henry's Hamburgers started life as an ice cream parlor called Bressler's Ice Cream back in the mid-50s. However, the franchise wanted to get their milkshakes and malt drinks to the masses, but also get into the booming drive-thru business. Eventually, this led to Henry's Hamburgers being born and replacing Bressler's.
We've entered a new era.
Known for their delicious milkshakes, chili dogs, fried shrimp, and 10 burgers for a buck, Henry's thrived up until the mid-70s. Unfortunately, the chain started to close many of its locations due to ownership changes and other factors, which resulted in Henry's locations vanishing across the country. Nowadays, if you want an authentic Henry's burger, you'll have to visit the last remaining restaurant in Michigan. There aren't too many fast food chains that can proudly boast steadily beating McDonald's, so Henry's legacy stands for more than just delicious milkshakes and burgers.
It was great.
Chi-Chi's.
Oh my God, Chi-Chi!
When your slogan is a celebration of food, you know you came to the right place. Chi-Chi's fast casual dining and delicious Mexican dishes were all the rage at one point, and the restaurant had a secret weapon to ensure customers kept coming back: fried ice cream. With food ammunition like that, it didn't take long for Chi-Chi's restaurants to start popping up all over North America. Unfortunately, the Mexican food chain was plagued with a few problems that led to their many locations vanishing from suburban landscapes. First, the chain was the source of a large hepatitis A outbreak in the US, which is never a good look for any restaurant.
Pretty bad, actually.
If that weren't bad enough, the restaurant had to file for bankruptcy due in part to increased competition from places like the Olive Garden and Boston Pizza, to name a few. This led to Outback Steakhouse buying the majority of the Chi-Chi's locations, and that was it for the famous Mexican fast casual joint. However, this isn't the end of the Chi-Chi's story. If you need a little Chi-Chi's in your life, but you live in North America, just plan a visit to Austria, Belgium, or Kuwait, as there are Chi-Chi's restaurants there.
We're all still here.
Beefsteak Charlie's.
This is Beefsteak Charlie's. Steak is in the name.
There's nothing quite like a nice, juicy steak. With steak being so popular, it makes sense that steakhouses would rise to prominence. However, with steakhouses comes a hefty price tag for your preferred cut. Luckily, one of the cheaper steak options that also happens to be extremely delicious is the steak sandwich. Many fast food and fast casual restaurants offer the beloved sandwich, but only one chain served up steak sandwiches with a horse race theme. Beefsteak Charlie's opened its doors for the first time back in 1914 and became a fully fledged chain by the late 70s.
We made it.
The New York chain offered more than just steak sandwiches. Beefsteak Charlie's came complete with an all-you-can-eat salad bar and unlimited beer, wine, and sangria. Unfortunately, by the late 80s, the reign of Beefsteak Charlie's had come to an end, with the majority of their locations closing up permanently. Sadly, the last known Beefsteak Charlie's finally closed its doors in 2009. The chain's slogan was, "I'll feed you like there's no tomorrow." Charlie, about that.
It's really awkward.
Little Tavern.
Most tavern, most bacon.
White Castle hasn't always been the only castle burger joint in town. Back in the day, there was a little burger shop called Little Tavern. Little Tavern was a small restaurant with block construction and the outside appearance of a castle, much like the White Castle buildings. Due to the small size of the restaurant, Little Tavern was only able to accommodate a few customers to eat in, making the restaurant more of a takeout joint. The burger chain's slogan was "Buy 'em by the bag," which many of the franchise's loyal customers frequently did.
All the time.
Little Tavern first opened its doors in 1927, long before McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's were even a thought in their respective creators' minds, and the franchise thrived for years. Unfortunately, as they say, all good things must come to an end. Little Tavern started to experience troubles in the 90s before closing all locations completely by 2008. Though not every Little Tavern has completely vanished. A Little Tavern in Laurel, Maryland is still in business today. Though the restaurant is now called Laurel Tavern Donuts, you can still order those authentic Little Tavern burgers.
There is always an option.
Chicken George.
Health department shut Chicken George again?
Many fast food franchises have instantly recognizable mascots that help with their marketing. Ronald McDonald, Wendy, and Jollibee's Jolly Bee are all examples of popular chains with established mascots. Though fast food chains can take a different route when naming their franchise, such as naming their eatery after a famous fictional character. Moby Dick House of Kebab in Washington is a perfect example of using an established character for your restaurant's identity. And that's exactly what Chicken George decided to do when naming their chicken chain after the Roots character Chicken George.
George. Chicken George.
The restaurant Chicken George first opened its doors in the late 70s and served up soul food staples such as gumbo, greens, biscuits, and, of course, chicken. The Northeast fast food chain also made history by being the largest African-American-owned fast food company in the U.S. at one time. However, the company filed for bankruptcy after changes in ownership as well as other factors, resulting in the company closing its doors for good in 1991.
It's over.
Naugles.
Fast food okay?
Yeah, I love fast food.
Considering Mexican food is one of the most popular foods in North America, you'd think there would be dozens of chains spanning the continent. However, that's not really the case. Sure, Chipotle, Taco Bell, and Del Taco are present to quell the burrito cravings, but back in the 70s, there was at least one more franchise you could stop into if you lived in Southern California. Naugles was a Mexican food chain that thought outside the bun long before Taco Bell was claiming to do so, with menu items like the taco sandwich being one such example.
Tacos, hot tacos here.
At its height, Naugles had close to 200 locations. However, as is so often the case, Naugles' success came to an unfortunate end in the mid-90s when the franchise merged with Del Taco. So in some way, the spirit of the former franchise lives on. Only a few locations remained in Nevada until they were closed. However, this story has a happy ending as the once-defunct franchise has seen a revival. So if you're so inclined, pack your bags and make the pilgrimage to sunny California.
So you're leaving soon for California, eh?
Here are a few honorable mentions that deserve a quick shout-out. At the same time, give us a shout-out by hitting that like button. Now, moving on. Royal Castle.
I'm the king of kings. Ha!
Okay, so this was a burger joint with Castle in its name, known for its mini burgers. If you thought of White Castle, that's understandable. However, you'd be mistaken. Royal Castle was a Miami-based burger joint known for small burgers and birch beer. The restaurant and its 175 locations did very well until the mid-70s. Today, there are no Royal Castles, only white ones. Pizza Haven.
The best pizza!
What could be better than a Pizza Haven? Very little. So it's not surprising that Seattle-based pizzeria Pizza Haven was the talk of the Pacific Northwest. The pizza chain was one of the first pizzerias to offer delivery, which they called Dial-a-Pizza. Unfortunately, Pizza Haven is a haven no more, as the chain filed for bankruptcy in the late 90s, with the last store, located in Seattle, closing in 2012. Red Barn.
Is it red? No. Then it's not a barn.
A restaurant with a theme can either be fun or unbearable. In the case of Red Barn, the barn-themed restaurants paired with delicious burgers and a serve-yourself salad bar was a recipe for success. Sadly, the success didn't last, and Red Barn eventually closed all its barn doors forever in 1998.
Never say never.
Burger Chef.
Of course I delivered everyone. I even brought Burger Chef back.
McDonald's has established itself as being the biggest fast food joint on the planet. Much of the franchise's success comes from its classic menu. However, it wasn't just the food that made McDonald's an unstoppable juggernaut. The franchise's Happy Meal, which of course includes the famous toy inside, was largely responsible for making the burger chain irresistible to kids all over the world. However, if you think McDonald's was the first burger joint to include a toy, you're mistaken. That distinction belongs to Burger Chef. The Indianapolis burger chain first debuted its Fun Meal in 1973. This kids' meal featured a burger, fries, a drink, cookies, and a toy about 6 years before McDonald's debuted the Happy Meal.
I'm original OG.
The chain did try to sue McDonald's, but ultimately failed. Other than the Fun Meal, Burger Chef also introduced automatic milkshake machines, soft-serve ice cream machines, and flame broilers, which the brand also patented back in 1954. The chain also had over 1,200 locations in the U.S. by the early 70s, only being seconded by McDonald's, which had 1,600 at that time. Despite the chain's innovation and crowd-pleasing burgers, the chain called it quits by the mid-90s. However, the chain does live on in spirit, as Hardee's eventually bought what was left of Burger Chef.
Lunch is on me! Hardee's for everyone!
Stay for seconds and tap or click another great video. Hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to join our notification squad.